Have you ever wondered how a man of modest height from Corsica became one of the most powerful figures in history? This is the enigma of Napoleon Bonaparte, a man whose influence has reverberated through the centuries, shaping nations and rewriting the course of history. Born into a minor noble family, Napoleon, through sheer determination and military genius, ascended to become the Emperor of the French. His reign brought about sweeping reforms in law, administration, and education that still form the bedrock of many modern systems. But as the saying goes, pride goes before a fall. Napoleon's ambition for a vast empire led to his downfall, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. Yet his legacy is far from black and white. His life is a testament to the human spirit, a blend of ambition, bravery, and tragically flawed hubris. Join us as we journey through the life of the man who changed the face of Europe forever. Napoleon Bonaparte, a man destined for greatness, was born on August 15, 1769 in Corsica. His birthplace, Corsica, is a rugged island in the Mediterranean which at the time of his birth had just become a province of France. Born to Carlo Maria di Bonaparte and Maria Letizia Ramolino, Napoleon came from a relatively minor noble Italian family. The Bonaparte family was not affluent, but they had more than most. This allowed the young Napoleon to be sent to mainland France for his education, a privilege not bestowed upon many Corsican children. Napoleon's experiences in France would shape his perspective, his ambitions, and ultimately, his destiny. At the tender age of 9, Napoleon was enrolled in a religious school in autumn before moving to a military academy in Brienne-le-Château. Here he would spend 5 years studying, away from his family, his homeland, and the comforts of his previous life. The young Corsican was initially the subject of ridicule due to his accent and his provincial manners. But Napoleon was not one to be deterred. He was a voracious reader, consuming texts on French history and the classics of literature. He was particularly drawn to the works of ancient military strategists, a fascination that would serve him well in the years to come. His academic prowess and tenacity earned him a place at the prestigious École Militaire in Paris. At the age of 15, he was the school's youngest cadet. He graduated a year later, a remarkable achievement, further underscoring his intellectual capabilities and his unyielding determination. In these early years, Napoleon Bonaparte was not yet the man who would shape the course of history. He was a young boy, a foreigner in a strange land, learning, growing, and preparing for the life that lay ahead of him. He was a student of history, a lover of literature, and an aspiring military strategist. But within him burned a fire, a fervent desire to rise above his circumstances, to forge his path, to make his mark. These formative years set the stage for the meteoric rise of Napoleon Bonaparte. And so, the stage was set for the boy from Corsica to become one of the most influential figures in world history. In the chaotic aftermath of the French Revolution, a new leader emerged, a man of unquestionable military prowess and charismatic aura, Napoleon Bonaparte. His rise to power was not an overnight event, but a calculated ascent fueled by his military successes during the French Revolution. In the volatile climate of the Revolution, Napoleon's military acumen shone brightly. His strategic brilliance led the French army to several victorious battles, earning him the admiration and respect of a nation yearning for stability. One of his most notable victories was the Battle of Austerlitz, where his forces defied the odds to crush the larger Russian and Austrian armies. This victory was a turning point, cementing his status as a military genius and a hero in the eyes of the French people. However, it wasn't just his military triumphs that paved the way for his rise. Napoleon possessed a rare combination of charisma and political savvy. He knew how to manipulate public sentiment to his advantage. He leveraged his popularity and the political turmoil of the time to stage a coup in 1799. In a swift move, he replaced the ineffective Directory government with a new political structure, the consulate, with himself as the first consul. This move was a masterstroke, placing him at the helm of the French government. Napoleon's rise to power was a masterclass in seizing opportunity. He capitalized on the chaos of the French Revolution, his military victories, and his popularity to ascend the political ladder. He was a leader who understood the pulse of the people, knew when to strike, and how to consolidate his power. However, power is a double-edged sword. As Napoleon ascended to the pinnacle of power, he was also setting the stage for his eventual downfall. But at this moment, in the year of 1799, he stood as the ruler of France with the whole of Europe at his feet. Napoleon, the military genius, had now become Napoleon, the ruler of France. With Napoleon at the helm, France entered a new era, a time of sweeping reforms and profound changes. The period of Napoleon's rule was marked by an ambitious vision for a unified and modernized nation. One of the most significant reforms under Napoleon was the introduction of the Napoleonic Code. A comprehensive set of civil laws, it replaced the patchwork of old feudal laws that had previously governed France. The code sought to establish equality before the law, and to eliminate privileges based on birth. It was an embodiment of some of the most fundamental principles of the French Revolution: liberty, equality, and fraternity. But Napoleon didn't stop at legal reform. He also undertook a massive overhaul of France's administrative structures. He centralized the administration, creating a more efficient and effective government. This reform not only streamlined the bureaucracy, but also gave Napoleon greater control over the country's affairs. It was a masterstroke that allowed him to steer France towards his vision of a modern nation. Education, too, was not spared from Napoleon's reformist zeal. He established a system of public education, laying the groundwork for universal access to education in France. This was a radical departure from the past, where education was largely the preserve of the wealthy and the clergy. Napoleon's education reforms were designed to produce an enlightened citizenry, capable of contributing to the progress of the nation. These reforms, however, were not without controversy. Critics argue that they were often autocratic in nature, and that they served to consolidate Napoleon's power, rather than to genuinely democratize French society. Despite these criticisms, there's no denying the far-reaching impact of Napoleon's reforms. They fundamentally transformed France, laying the foundations for the modern French state. Napoleon's rule brought about significant changes that continue to shape France today. His vision of a unified modern nation, governed by rational laws and enlightened citizens, continues to resonate in the fabric of French society. For better or worse, Napoleon's era was indeed a new era for France, a period of transformation that left an indelible mark on the nation's history. However, Napoleon's ambition led to his downfall. There's no denying that this man of humble beginnings had climbed to the very pinnacle of power. But like Icarus flying too close to the sun, the extent of his ambition would prove to be his undoing. In the early 19th century, Napoleon, intoxicated by his own success, made a series of miscalculations. The first monumental error was the invasion of Russia in 1812. Napoleon led his grand army of over 500,000 men into the heart of Russia. However, the harsh Russian winter, coupled with scorched earth tactics, decimated his forces. By the time Napoleon ordered a retreat, his once mighty army had been reduced to a mere fraction of its original size. This disastrous campaign marked the beginning of the end for Napoleon. His second major mistake was underestimating the resolve of his European adversaries. The Battle of Waterloo, fought in June 1815, was Napoleon's final bid to regain power after his first exile. Yet, he met his match in the Duke of Wellington. Outmaneuvered and outnumbered, Napoleon suffered a crushing defeat. This loss marked the end of Napoleon's reign and led to his second and final exile. This time, the victors took no chances. Napoleon was sent to St. Helena, a remote island in the South Atlantic. Here, the man who had once held the reins of power over much of Europe was reduced to a mere prisoner. He spent his final years in solitude, far removed from the grandeur and glory of his past. In the end, Napoleon's ambition, his greatest strength, became his ultimate weakness. His desire to conquer, to rule, to leave a legacy, led him down a path of destruction. Yet it's this very ambition that makes his story so compelling, so human. The man who once ruled Europe was now a prisoner on a remote island. His tale is a stark reminder of the transient nature of power and the price of unbridled ambition. Napoleon's impact, however, extended far beyond his life. First, let's delve into his influence on modern warfare. Napoleon Bonaparte, a military genius, revolutionized warfare with his strategic and tactical brilliance. His use of large-scale coordinated movements, known as the Napoleonic maneuver, remains a cornerstone of military strategy even today. His emphasis on speed, flexibility, and surprise in battle set a new standard for military operations. Next, we have his legal and administrative reforms, most notably the Napoleonic Code. It was a comprehensive legal system that dealt with civil law, property, and family. The code, though not without its flaws, was a groundbreaking piece of legislation that prioritized the rights of the individual and property rights over feudal and royal privileges. It became a blueprint for legal systems around the world, from Europe to the Americas and beyond. Napoleon's influence didn't stop there. His reign also had a profound effect on nationalism in Europe. He unintentionally sparked a wave of nationalistic fervor across the continent. His conquests and the imposition of French culture and language on conquered peoples led to a rise in national consciousness. The conquered nations began to seek their own identities, separate from that of their conqueror. It's also worth noting that Napoleon had an impact on education. He established lycées, schools open to all males regardless of their social class, which aimed to provide the nation with well-educated future leaders. This egalitarian approach to education was a significant shift from the past, and influenced the modern concept of public education. Lastly, we can't forget Napoleon's influence on the arts. His reign was a golden age for French culture, inspiring countless works of literature, music, and visual art. His life and deeds have been immortalized in countless novels, plays, operas, and paintings. Even in death, Napoleon continues to shape our world. From legal codes to national identities, from military strategy to public education, his legacy lives on. His influence is so pervasive that, even over 2 centuries later, we still feel the echoes of his reign in nearly every facet of modern society. Napoleon Bonaparte, a military genius, a reformer, an emperor, and a legend. This man's story, from his humble beginnings to his rise as a powerful emperor, is as captivating as it is complex. His military prowess changed the face of warfare, while his sweeping reforms transformed French society, laying the groundwork for modern France. Yet, his reign was not without controversy. His ambitious expansionist policies led to devastating wars, and his thirst for power ultimately resulted in his downfall. However, even in his defeat, Napoleon's influence was far from over. His legacy continues to resonate, shaping our understanding of leadership, power, and the human capacity for ambition and resilience. In examining Napoleon's life, we see a man of contradictions, of towering strengths, and equally significant flaws. A man who, despite his faults, forever changed the course of history. Napoleon Bonaparte, a man of humble origins who left an indelible mark on history.